All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Village of Essex Junction Trustees meeting for Tuesday, February 25th. Please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all, and for those who have arrived, please make sure that you sign in so that way we know who is here. And going off to Mr. Manager, do we have any agenda additions or changes for tonight?
We do not.
Nice. Seeing as such, no need to approve the agenda. Will bring us on to the next portion of public to be heard. So this is a point in the meeting in where, or in which, if there is something that you would like to speak to the board about that is not on the agenda, now is the time to do so. If you have an item that is on the agenda, please wait until that item comes up, and we would be happy to have the public comment at that point in time. So does anybody out there tonight wish to speak about something not on the agenda? Okay, seeing none, we will move on into business items 5A, or business item 5A. First one being Mr. Seth Cronin in an interview for the Bike Walk Advisory Committee. So Seth, if you'd like to come on up, please join us at the table. We appreciate you being here.
That's good. Thank you.
So we have your letter of interest. This is for a one open seat with a term ending June 30 of 2022. And so if you don't mind just starting off with what is it that interests you about this opportunity?
Yeah, thanks, and thanks for making time for this, everyone. I live in Essex Junction. I'm on North Street. My wife and I bought a house there in 2015, and we're both really lucky to be able to walk or bike to work most of the year. My wife works at Global Boundaries. I work at a intellectual property consulting firm on Industrial Lab in Williston, so it's only about 3.5 miles. And yeah, I just got really interested in more modes of transport around Vermont other than using the car. And so when I saw the opportunity, it seemed like an interesting way to become more a part of the community and contribute. Yeah.
Great, great. Before I open it up, have you been to a bike walk committee meeting
I have
yet?
not.
Or?
Nope.
Okay. I don't want to dominate the conversation. If other trustees have questions you'd like to ask.
You bike into Williston?
Yes.
You do?
Yeah.
Do you have trouble? Just tell me about the transition going from Essex Junction over the bridge, because I know Williston's got the really nice bike path.
Yeah.
And then when you go down Industrial Ave, is that where you go? But right before you can link into Williston, there's kind of a dead area. Do you feel safe? How do you go over the bridge? I guess I'm asking.
That's a really great question.
All right.
So one of the things I've actually realized, and
I mean, and there's not a right answer here.
no, okay, yeah, I'm really happy to
to
talk about it because I do it probably 150 times a year. I've actually found that the bike path that runs along 2A in Williston is not quite reliable and a little less safe than just riding in the shoulder of the road.
Is that right?
Yeah, and so there's a couple of reasons for that. First of all, is just the plowing issue in the winter, and the drainage issue in the spring. Second is actually how the bike path is divided by all the driveways along 2A. So if I stay in the shoulder, I can continuously move along with traffic. But if I use that bike path, I have to stop about every 100 yards, especially in the morning commute when a lot of cars are pulling out of their driveways.
Yeah.
And so they block that bike path pretty habitually. So I just found over the years, most cars keep their distance. It's a pretty wide shoulder. If I just stay on the shoulder, I can make much better time. Yeah. So I've seen a lot of the other cyclists out making that same decision. I'm really grateful for the bike path to be there, especially for those who don't feel safe riding along with traffic like I do.
Yeah.
I wear like a high visibility waterproof jacket. I have lights on my helmet, on the back, on the front, and I run them pretty much 24/7. So I've had a really good luck, just riding along with the drivers as Vermont.
Well, you'll be a good person to have on the committee, having that experience. So when it comes to making some judgments about stuff, you'll be able to. As Rod, I'm seeing Rod shake his head, and he's been through a lot of the same things. So
Yeah. Oh,
it's good to know and good advice.
Yeah.
When we put new things in, or we try something new. So.
Yeah. The probably the riskiest part of the whole journey And of course, this is down in the Williston section in Essex, so limited, perhaps powered influence there. But it's actually on the way home, taking a left turn back onto Industrial Ave.
Oh, yeah.
So, because it splits into 2 lanes, and so I kind of have to make a choice if I'm gonna block the full turning lane or ride up next to the cars in the turning lane, and so then I'm in between 2 lanes. Yeah, so
You like look at the driver and say, oh, does that look like a nice person? You're gonna be doing.
yeah, it's very, very contextual. So the real rule is to always keep your senses open, never make any hard and fast decisions that don't feel safe. So that's what I always go with.
Thanks.
Other trustees?
Yeah, I mean, sorry, go ahead.
No.
If, in terms, so you've been riding around here for a while now, so
Mhm.
what do you see in the village infrastructure-wise that's working, and what do you think we still need to work on?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of really great bike paths like Junction. I've really enjoyed the bike path behind Countryside that connects to Essex Center and the outlets. I think that makes, I've actually gone to grocery shopping trips on Hannaford, and I'll take like a bike trailer with me. And that route I find much more comfortable to cross over 289 than just going straight up Route 15.
Yep.
So I think that's working really well. Some of the things that it's funny, a very small gripe I have is actually not a bike issue. I've had pretty good luck with that. There's one crosswalk that I've really had a hard time with as a pedestrian, and that's the one right at where Railroad Ave connects to Main Street. And especially at night, because of the 5 corners traffic right around 5:36 p.m., it is extremely hard to cross that intersection. Cars know they're supposed to yield, and there's a sign there that says yield pedestrian, but there's also cars parked all along the road there, so they don't see you until it's almost too late to stop. And I've always thought that if there was one of those like blinky lights that the pedestrians could trigger, it might be a lot easier to cross that. Because I've literally probably waited there for like 10-15 minutes waiting for someone to notice that like a man, a wife, and his dog are trying to cross the road. So I think it's just maybe just a visibility issue more than maybe that infrastructure could help out there.
Great.
Any of the trustees have other questions?
Just curious on where you lived before you were here in Vermont.
Yeah. So I was born and raised in Georgia, Vermont. I went to university in Boston for about 5 years. My wife, my now wife, then girlfriend, moved to Tennessee for 2 short years after university, and then we moved back here in 2015.
So just the reason I asked, just comparing what you see here, maybe obviously depends on the scale, the size of the communities that you were in, but how does Essex
Yeah.
compare with?
So Essex is light years ahead of Tennessee as far as catering to pedestrians and cyclists. I think we've done Vermont as a whole has done a really good job, and the infrastructure is a big part. I think the even bigger part is how drivers as a community and pedestrians like know and are aware of each other and respect the laws equally. So in Tennessee, I would notice a lot of drivers would like intentionally disrespect cyclists and pedestrians, and so like cyclists and pedestrians in return would run red lights and not respect the laws as much, and organize disruptive demonstrations and stuff like that. So I'm really impressed with the community here and how well drivers tend to respect cyclists and pedestrians. So if there's a side thing to focus on, I think it's fostering that sense of community and trust and safety, and making sure everyone follows the rules. So.
Yeah. Does anybody have any other questions?
I mean, you haven't been to a meeting, but you're aware and available the 3rd Monday of every month for an hour?
Yes,
Okay.
I believe so. Unless anything,
It's a small semantic,
Yeah.
just figured I'd ask.
of course. I occasionally travel for work, but not very often. Probably about 2 or 3 times a year.
Excellent.
So the way that the process would work, there is one other candidate, correct? Or one other person who's interested, I believe?
I believe so.
And as such, we would not make a decision tonight. We'll make a decision
Great.
after we interview this other person as well, which I believe that's supposed to be for March 10th. So you wouldn't hear back from us until after that point in time. Just please take no news as just no news. As soon as we make a
Certainly.
decision, we will absolutely reach out and let you know.
Yeah, as long as the position gets filled, then
Yeah.
I'll rest easy either way. So.
And if you don't get this opportunity, there are other committees,
Yes.
there are other openings, so I would also just make that plug as well.
Yeah,
That if
appreciate
this
that.
doesn't work out, to please don't lose hope. There's other
Okay.
opportunities.
Oh, then.
Great. We appreciate you being here, so thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
And going on to the next agenda item, which is an interview for the CCTV representative with Mona Shepherd. If you'd like to also come on up and join us, it'd be great. So Mona, thank you for being here again. With the CCTV opportunity, this is a open seat, with a term ending fairly soon. But regardless, this has been something that in the past we have done with the town of Essex, with the select board, and the select board recently, you interviewed there, was that last week? Or,
Last week, yes.
yeah. And so as they've, I'm not sure if they've made their decision.
Yes, they did.
They have, and they've appointed you?
Yes.
Okay. That is not to say let's just blindly appoint Mona, just for, again, the context.
Yeah.
So opening this up, if you don't mind, just starting off with what is it that interests you about this opportunity?
Well, I've always wanted to serve in some way in the community, and in October of 2018, I left the town of Underhill position and went to work for Vermont Public Radio as CFO and VP of Administration. And being in a journalism organization, there are certain restrictions to leadership teams, so you can't advocate for things, and you can't be active in politics. So I've just been peeking around every time something comes up with the town, and I did notice this position, and I know I had, I'd been there like for the little debates that we had, and I think it kind of mixes with the public nonprofit television or radio that I'm in now. I think my budgeting abilities go in with the kind of responsibilities that this particular board does, and I met, probably a couple of months ago now, I met with Lauren. She came out to VPR. We met for a couple of hours, giving me a background of what's going on and what might be happening. I've met somewhat with Elaine, attended one of the joint meetings of CCTV and Channel 17. Got to know some people, and it looks really interesting. I think it could add some value. There's a lot to learn. It's a pretty steep learning curve, but it sounds really exciting.
Yeah, there certainly is a learning curve. I know the times that Elaine has talked about some of the intricacies, especially with the legal battle around the way cable access is
Cable.
funded, and yes, there's a lot to it.
Losing that funding and trying to find some more funding, yeah.
Right.
It's a big, they have some big challenges ahead of them.
Absolutely. Other trustees, any questions?
I don't have a question on it, but I appreciate you doing this, and I know Lauren Glenn is really gonna appreciate having someone with finance background and your connections on the board, so it's a good thing for you to do. I really appreciate it on behalf of the community.
Thank you.
I just like to say thanks for doing it too. I watched your interview on the select board, so spare you any more
Please.
questions. I'm very comfortable after having you go through one of these. So.
Sure, no problem, thank you.
Yep. Anybody else have any other questions?
Good.
Okay. I don't either. I see, yes, there's a hand in the back. Yes, Elaine?
Hi, just wanted to make a statement that you referred on the agenda as the CCTV board, but when you make your motion, you should appoint Mona to the Channel 17 Town Meeting Television Board, not the CCTV board.
That's right.
CCTV's board and Channel 17's board are in the process of exploring a merger for achieving efficiencies and cost savings,
Okay.
and they expect to complete the process in October. But
Wow,
until,
what a novel idea.
it's happening so quickly and it's going so smoothly, we're really excited about it.
So just to make sure we get this correct, Elaine, would you say that it is a regional representative for Channel 17 town meeting representative? Or town meeting
Town meeting
broadcast?
television. She would, for this purpose, it would be the Essex Junction representative
Mhm.
to Channel 17 Town Meeting Television Board.
Okay, great. Great. Thank you for being here. Thank you for coming here, even having just did the same thing last week.
Yep.
I believe that we will make We have on the agenda this is for interview and appoint, okay? So with that, while you're here, I would go ahead and make the motion that the trustees, that's the wrong one, approve Mona Shepherd as Essex Junction representative to Channel 17 and Town Meeting Television.
Second.
And is there any further discussion on the motion?
No, but I just forgot, Mona, do you have any questions for us? I don't know if there's anything else you want to ask us or anything.
I suppose I still don't understand completely, how we share me. How we share me, I just want to
Yeah.
make sure, I know the other board, pretty much, leave everything to Lauren to come and discuss with you, and I just want to make sure that you do the same thing, I don't want to ignore you. So if you had any requirements in that, to let me know.
Well, we appreciate that, yes, in the past, Lauren will come to the board. If there are things that should come to our attention before then, though, please
Okay.
feel free to reach out to myself, reach out to Evan, reach out to any one of the five of us, and let us know that you'd like to come and speak to us about something that
Okay.
concerns you. So yes, we would appreciate that open communication for sure.
Great.
As far as I understand, you represent both of us, so if the same thing, if there's something where you need to communicate it, if there isn't an opportunity to do it at a joint meeting of the village and the town, then you would have to ultimately go to both, but we would try to get you at a joint meeting. We would have liked to have done that in the first place, but we couldn't get a joint meeting tonight.
That's fine. That's good. Thank you. Yes, that answered that. Thanks a lot.
Great. So we have a motion on the table, it's been seconded. Any further discussion on that motion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Is anybody opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations and thank you.
Thank you very much.
Looking forward to it. Which will bring us on to the presentation on the Champlain Water District bond votes and the budget for the upcoming year.
Evening.
Good evening, how are you?
Good, and yourselves?
Doing well? We appreciate you being here.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here. Appreciate it. I'm Joe Duncan, General Manager, Champlain Water District, and with me tonight is Nate Peon. He's our Chief Engineer for the Water District, and sitting in the crowd and not joining us up here is Aaron Martin, your representative for the town of Essex. So, as you may or may not know, our charter is for 8 municipal entities, and the town of Essex is the municipal entity that represents the charter, and that person can be a resident of the Junction or the town. Aaron has been elected as your representative. So, I would like to, don't want to take up much of your time tonight, and hopefully not do a lot of speaking, but maybe hear some questions from you. But we've got 2 things that I wanted to present to you this evening, very briefly. One is we've gone through our fiscal year budget for 2020, 2021, which is our July 1 through June 30th fiscal year. And then the other one is to just briefly update you on the bond vote project that we have that's coming up, and let you know what the bond vote is and what the projects are. So as far as the budget goes, we are up 3.75% from last year. Our wholesale rate is currently 2.23 per 1,000 gallons. That's what we sell our water to our on a wholesale rate. It is up to 2.313 per 1,000 gallons this year, which is an 8.3 cents per 1,000 gallon increase, which if you look at it on a homeowner's basis, that's about a $5.45 increase for the year. So that's where we're at budget-wise. I'm happy to go into as much detail as you would like to on any of that, but I will follow it up by saying that that is what's currently been proposed as approved by our Board of Commissioners, and we have our annual meeting on April 7th at St. Michael's College at the Pomerleau Alumni Center, and that's 7 o'clock on that Tuesday, April 7th, and that's where we will take action to formally vote on the budget as well as some other positions that we need to fill for auditor and moderator. And so anybody who is a registered voter within any of our 8 served systems, 8 communities, is able to attend and vote. If anybody's able to attend and ask questions, but as long as you're a registered voter in any of those communities, 8 communities, you can come in and vote. So
It's essentially the town meeting equivalent, if you will, or the village meeting equivalent.
you are correct. It is pretty much the village, it's similar to a village model. So where we hold it in April. So Any questions, any detail you'd like me to go into on the
Joe,
budget?
maybe this is I don't want to put you on the spot. It's interesting to see how the water rates vary in Chittenden County among your users. But I'm curious, how do Champlain Water, CWD rates stack up against other water districts and maybe other states? Sort of where are we? Are we sort of middle range, upper range, lower range? Do you have a sense of that?
On a regional basis, say
Yeah.
the Northeast, we are around typical.
Okay.
If you look at it nationally, we are low, especially compared to the Southwest and the West, as well as some Midwest. We're even the bit of the South it varies. We're kind of in range in some and not in others. And quite frankly, that difference is reinvestment within infrastructure. The Northeast in general has had a model of run to failure without looking at rates that are sustainable to keep the system and reinvest in that infrastructure. And so the Northeast tends to have a lot lower rates than others that are looking to put money back into some of the problems that are out there. So you may see that trend change over time, but that's the general trend nationally.
When you mention run to failure, how different would you say that is compared to the way that the CWD is operated?
So it's a lot different, and honestly, it's because CWD was started in 1973, so generally we're a young system. Our pipes are 48 years old approximately, which is young in the age of pipe. If you think about the village of Essex Junction, there's 100-year-old pipe here. So we actually have, in the history of our system, 9 water breaks. And of those 9 water breaks, 3 of them are actually corrosion related or pipe failure related. The other 6 are contractor and or pole installation related. And so, but we know that our pipe is in similar subsurface conditions as the pipes that are 100 years old that are failing. And so what I like to say is, if you're a 100-year-old system and you knew what we know today, 50 years ago, would you have done something different? And that's our model, is basically using everybody else's hindsight to move forward to say, let's make sure that we reinvest in our infrastructure, let's make sure that we put forward rates that are affordable but sustainable, so that we are bringing in the revenue that allows us to put money back into it. Let's create asset management programs that allow us to put, like your car, your choices are to let your car never change your oil, never change the tires. You can run it till the thing falls apart and then take it to the junkyard.
Right.
Or you can change your oil, you can get it serviced, and you can try and extend the life of that. And that's our model and honestly, that's part of the bond vote that we're talking about. I don't know if you asked that so I could segue into that. But
Absolutely, that was the whole point.
But you guys are good. But if there are other questions on the budget, I'm happy to answer them. So with regards to the bond vote, so we have one article on town meeting. It's CWD has its own bonding authority as per its charter. We are our own district. We have our own municipal rights similar to any other town, village, city. And so, but what you'll find is that our article is on your ballots, and that's in order to expedite the counting process electronically. And so we are looking at a $3.5 million bond project and that includes 2 projects. It includes what we call our Colchester South Tank Loop project, and it also includes our Essex West Pump Station project. So one thing that everybody needs to realize is that we are a regional entity, and not every project that we do specifically benefits all 12 of our serve systems, although we do projects that try and assist regional areas. So the Colchester South Tank Loop project is actually a project that does happen to benefit the town of Essex, but not necessarily the village of Essex Junction, because there's 2 tanks on Water Tower Hill. We call them our Colchester South tanks. So if you've ever been by Costco and looked up and seen 2 blue tanks on top of the hill, that's our Colchester South tanks. In those tanks, there's a one-way line through Camp Johnson that feeds those 2 tanks. And so if there's ever a break, if there's ever a break in that line, we don't have the ability to get water out of those tanks. And those 2 tanks actually serve 6 water systems of our 12 water systems.
Wow.
One of them is the town of Essex, the Fort Ethan Allen and the Susie Wilson area. Water storage from those tanks serves that area. City of Winooski, Colchester Fire District number 3, like Severance Corners area. Colchester Fire District number 1, St. Mike's area. And then there's 2 small water systems within Colchester that are right around the exit 16 area that get water from that tank. So our goal is to put a second line in there to create a loop so that if we ever lose one of the lines, we have a second one to be able to draw water out of those tanks as well as to put water back into them. We also have a stagnation issue where we're looping, and that's creating an issue with very low levels of PCE hits because the pipe is asbestos cement with a vinyl lining, which back in the 70s, that sounded like a great thing to do. But unfortunately, when that water sits stagnant in the pipe, it degrades the vinyl lining, and the vinyl lining gives off PCE. So the intent is to not have that water sit stagnant there and to move it, and creating that loop is a secondary benefit as well. That's a $900,000 project of the 3.5 million of the article. The other project is what we're calling our Essex West Pump Station project. And the Essex West Pump Station, right now, there's 2 tanks that serve the village of Essex Junction. One of them is our Essex South tank, so off of Maple Street Extension, across from the Global Foundries entrance. We have a 2 million gallon tank over there called our Essex South tank. There's a pump station there, which we call, even though it's at the Essex South tank, we call it our Essex East Pump Station. And our Essex East Pump Station, these were all predate me. So
No jokes.
You've explained this before.
I inherited those. So the Essex East Pump Station pumps out of the Essex South tank, and it feeds the Essex town as well as the Essex Junction high service area. So basically, Fairview, some of that area back there in Essex Junction, as well as the 289 area and the area heading out to Jericho. And then there's another pump station that pumps from the Jericho-Essex line into Jericho. So that one pump station feeds those areas. If that pump station is out of service, we have no ability to put water to any of those areas. So our goal is to put a second pump station in called the Essex West Pump Station. The Essex West Pump Station, under Nate and I's guidance, will actually suck out of the Essex West tank.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So we tried to come up with some different names, but it didn't really work. So the Essex West tank is a 2.2 million gallon tank. You probably never really have seen it. It's behind the McEwen's property on Route 15, just down from Lang, up from Fairview, where the new development is going in, right across from there, heading out west, is a tank that's sitting in a field. It's a 2.2 million gallon tank. It's 135 feet in diameter and 30 feet tall, so you can't see it over the trees. So if you can imagine, it's this big, wide tank. It has about 120,000 gallons per foot. So for every foot it drops out of that 30, it takes 120,000 gallons to drop it. Whereas, say, the Colchester South tanks takes about 15,000 gallons per foot. So one, having that tank, having that pump station there will add some redundancy to the Essex Junction High and the Essex Town High. But also, too, what happens is everything that leaves our plant pumps at one grade line. And the Essex West tanks are on that, Essex West tank, Essex South tanks are on that grade line. We also have the South Burlington tanks, the Colchester South tanks, Williston West tanks, so all these different tanks that are just at different slightly elevations are all on that grade. And so we have to do this dance of trying to get them all to drop a little bit and then to fill up a little bit. And we want that because if you don't move the water in the tank, it will become stale and stagnant, and you can have water quality issues, as well as ice buildup if you're not turning it over in the winter. And if you can imagine this 135-foot tank, it's very tough to get it to drop and raise. And it really puts stress on our overall system to try and move water around. So as much as this sounds like a project specific to Essex, it actually really benefits the whole system.
Makes sense.
And so that project is 2.6 million of the 3.5. And so on town meeting day, that's what we're asking people to vote on. And the thing to know about this is that we've done master planning over the years, and what we've tried to do in our master planning is 20, 30 years ago, we acquired debt. As that debt falls off, we've been trying to hold about $1 million worth of debt. And so what we have in the next couple of years is debt falling off, that's the equivalent amount of the debt that we'll be taking on for this 3.5 million. So we basically we're used to paying a certain amount of debt service in our line item for our rates. And so the plan is as that debt falls off, to backfill it with an equivalent amount, this 3.5 million. And that keeps us from having to raise our rates as a result of this project. So we're trying to reinvest in our infrastructure by doing so without impacting the ratepayers. So that's been our model for years.
Sort of like if you're leasing a car, the lease comes up, instead of buying out the car, or you then get a new car at the same payment, if you will, and maintain the same payment.
Exactly, yes.
Great.
You are correct. Yep.
Great.
And so that's all, that'll be on the ballot on town meeting. If anybody is interested, on Thursday, this Thursday, right here at Lincoln Hall at 7 o'clock, we'll be having our second bond vote hearing. So we can go into more depth on the project or questions that anybody has, if anybody is listening and is interested in coming here on the same room on Thursday.
Great. I do have a couple of questions. I'm not sure whether it's related to the bond vote or not. I see on that graph that you have of the history and projected annual debt service, multicolored with a whole bunch of green, and then in the future years, there's some purple and maybe pink.
Yep.
The pink portion that's starting in 2025, I think that is.
Yep.
With a PAC and maintenance facility. Is this just letting us know that in the future, there may need to be another bond vote or another larger expenditure coming up?
Yes, so the PAC stands for powder activated carbon, and then obviously maintenance facility. One of the things we're trying to do is we're planning, in case we ever happen to have any water quality issues such as blue-green algae or anything else that drives us to do some kind of pre-treatment.
Right.
The powder activated carbon is one of the ways to do that. So we're generating a plan. So the goal is to make a plan and then never have to implement it, as opposed to find out that we need it and figure out how we do it. So in our model, we have this pack and maintenance facility, and it doesn't quite match up with how we like to try and do things, because some of the debt isn't really falling off until like 2027, 2030. So we are, that's sort of like you said, it's an out there.
Right.
And one of the things that's on there, it's not board approved, so it's not something we would take any action on unless we had to.
Right.
And the goal is to put ourselves in a ready position to know what we need to do, but hopefully the time never comes.
It aligns really well with that other question I was going to ask, which is everything I hear in the news, much of what I hear in the news about water quality with regards to phosphorus, with regards to blue-green algae, and knowing where the water comes from. So this is to basically prepare where should there ever be a necessity to clean that or react to it, that you have it.
That's correct, yeah.
Great.
Contaminants of emergent concern are CECs, or what's out there for this next wave of stuff. We happen to draw out of Shelburne Bay. We're 80 feet down in the bay, kind of in a canyon, a deep water canyon area. And the bay is a very high water quality. We're also down deep, so we're below any of the surface influence. We've been fortunate to have very, very high quality water as a result of being deep. We don't anticipate being impacted by any of the CECs. However, we're also not naive in thinking that won't ever change. So we are all constantly monitoring it and constantly monitoring what the US EPA is looking at for the contaminants to be implemented 10, 15 years down the road.
All right.
The goal is to not get caught short.
Appreciate the forethought.
Yep.
Any other questions from anybody?
Fascinating stuff.
You look like you might.
Straining.
I know.
I'm gonna save it because anybody I think in this room can explain it to me, so I'll just.
What? What do you got?
That's a lot of shots,
I
man.
got a challenge on the table. I just basically, this I think came up at the select board meeting, but I think it's because of how you're set up, but you were explaining at the beginning. But I'm kind of wondering if people aren't connected to water, like, Essex, like many of the communities you serve, there are tons of customers that aren't hooked up. They're voting on this bond vote, and this bond is being paid back by ratepayers, right?
Correct. Well, yes, correct.
So we have residents voting to approve bonds that they're not paying back.
Correct.
So how does that work?
That is the nature of the beast.
Dan?
No, it's just gonna comment, the same thing could be said about a housing situation where the impact fees you pay for schools, because just because you don't have kids, doesn't mean that you don't have to pay for the thing, you vote on the school budget, you gotta do, so it's, not, I'm not saying it's the same, but I hear what you're saying, and I agree, but I also, can look at it from the other aspect, and they also might be on a well, but maybe they're close enough to a fire hydrant that's on the water, that people complain about water fees, and that's something everybody benefits from.
Yeah, you are correct. It's, and it's probably similar to the Junction, if the Junction, well, maybe not the Junction, because there's a lot of people on it, but the town would probably be a better example, where there's a lot of people who are not on water or sewer in the town of Essex, but if the town ever did a bond, anybody in the town, so what it is our charter is set up by each of the 8 municipalities that are in our charter, and we will assume the debt to service those areas, whether they have a water system or not. So therefore, anybody who is within those bounds has the right to vote to tell us whether or not to encumber it. Granted, they're not paying for it, but because they're members of our community, they have a right to vote on it. And it's not perfect. It's certainly,
I was just wondering how, I
Yeah.
have no judgment on it, I was just curious how that.
yeah, that's how our charter is, and that's how the legal authority is set up, right, wrong, or indifferent.
Go ahead, Dan.
Just wondering about extending your service further out to other areas. Have you seen a lot of that over the years since you've been?
So we've seen a lot of extension within our serve systems. The last system to add on was Milton in the late '80s. The other counties that surround us, communities that surround us in the county, Richmond's, Heinsberg's, they've made investments in their sources, as well as, and when they've done that, they've looked at us, and the distance in the amount of pipe to do it has been the deciding factor. And so, will we ever see anywhere else? It's possible. There's talk of Georgia every once in a while as a possibility. We also, one of the things we don't do is we don't sell water to the city of Burlington. So we have a mutual relationship. So, would that ever change, depending upon if something happened to their source, something happened to our source? Those would things that might change it. But a lot of the stuff that we're gonna see is growth within the systems we currently serve.
Any other questions? We really appreciate you being here to explain this to us, as certainly it's not something that I can just rattle off the top of my own head, so.
Well,
greatly
thank
appreciate
you
it.
very much.
And also greatly appreciate, Aaron, your
thanks,
representation for us at the table, so we thank you.
And if anyone has any other questions, please don't ever hesitate. If anybody would ever like a tour of the plant, please don't hesitate to reach out. We'd love to.
Yeah,
I'd love to have you.
encourage all of you to take a tour of the plant.
That'd be interesting.
yeah, I have not, that would be a great thing.
It's pretty feature.
Yeah, that'd be great.
It's probably better than the wastewater treatment plant.
Smells-
Not quite
We've seen where it ends up.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
The beginning and the end.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Cheers.
thank you for being here. All right, and so going to 5D, approving of the annual meeting warning. So we have the annual meeting warning. Does anybody have, Evan, is there anything else to add, other than this is the warning? The amounts looked right from my notes.
You
Think
asked,
looks
is
good?
there anything to add? No, just the reading, if you will, and the motion.
So, also at our next meeting, something that we typically do is we talk about village meeting, and are there things that we want to talk about in particular related to Article 4, in terms of just being able to have that public, or that opportunity to talk, or the things we want to present, that general flow. So if we could have that conversation at the next meeting. And similarly, our meeting is on April Fool's Day, so if you have any thoughts to how to take full advantage of that, I am all ears.
All right.
I have some thoughts, but.
Yeah.
So we're gonna meet down at the wastewater treatment plant.
Better in April than August.
Yeah.
In the minutes.
I thought that you should have put an article in here that we purchase an aircraft carrier. I put it in there last year.
Yeah.
No one
No,
thought about that.
no. I wondered about doing something with the
Yeah.
article itself. I thought that might be too much.
Would slightly exceed our
You
budget.
can bring it up.
Well, a used aircraft carrier.
Yeah.
Right.
When Mike Bloomberg moves here.
Would someone like to make a motion?
I will make a motion that we approve the warning for the Village of Essex Junction annual meeting as presented.
Second?
Is there any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Is anybody opposed? Thank you. Which will bring us to the consent agenda.
We can approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Thank you. Reading file?
I just wanted to mention something about the reading file, and I note that we also got a notice from Karen Horn at VLCT about the cannabis legislation and the choice that's coming up for communities about what, if I understand, basically if I understand it, I'm probably getting it wrong, but it's you can opt in or opt out. So the question is going to be, communities can say, what's it gonna be? That you automatically can sell cannabis unless you specifically say, no, you don't want to, versus you can only sell cannabis if you specifically have a community vote. Is that correct? Is that what's going on?
That's my understanding. I honestly, I have to admit, I'm not an expert in this.
Do we have an opinion, an opinion about this as a
Can we
board?
get this on the agenda quickly?
So I know this is something that, Evan, please correct me if I'm wrong, is we're going to be having as a joint board meeting.
Yes.
I assume after town meeting day, obviously.
That's, our hope has been, Chief Gary and others want to come and be able to present this. As far as I know, it's been a back and forth with the state legislature. One
Right.
time it's A, the next time it's B. Now I think they're working on C, and we're not even sure they're going to pass it.
And so whether we pass something that may or may not be
Right.
necessary,
But
may or may not be
you should have a
relevant.
discussion.
Right.
I mean, I would advocate for us to have that discussion as a
Yeah.
trustee board, as well as a joint board. Our needs and our desires may not match what the town is coming, or we have a business district that's different from theirs. We have proximity to schools and walking that they don't experience. I think it's a much different conversation in the village. And I don't want it to be diluted by having it, no negative implied there, by having it in a joint meeting alone. I think we have different needs here, especially when it comes to this. And I think we really need to revisit what that means for zoning and all of these things. We just lost a shop over there.
Yep.
Sad to see a business go. Not really though, for what it is, to be honest with you. So I think we really need to kind of have this conversation as a board and what that means for our concentrated area soon. Especially so maybe we could just send a couple letters down Montpelier, which is probably too late.
I would say it's never too late, and sorry to interrupt you.
No, it's all right, I'm done. Sorry.
It's never too late to send a letter, it's never too late to write to our representatives, it's never too late to write to the committee. If it's in GovOps or if it's in Ways and Means, I don't know which one it's in right now. But whichever committee it's in, writing to the committee. I know there's been a lot around taxation side of things and what are our rights as a community and how could we get some types of finance to help support any types of repercussions of this. That's still up in the air. It's not too late yet, but it could get there fast. They're off next week, I think, so.
That's right.
I'm good, I just wanted to
Yeah.
raise that issue, so it sounds like others are thinking about it, so.
Yeah. I would also, I just wanted to point out as well that the Brownell strategic plan for 2020 to 2025 is really interesting. Make sure to take a look at it. They've clearly done a lot of work around this, and it's not something that they just did in a silo. So it was really cool to see. Any other board member comments?
No.
Okay, we do not need an executive session for tonight, correct? I don't need it?
That is
You don't need
correct.
it? Nobody else needs it?
Adjourn?
So we have any further discussion on the motion to adjourn? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Nobody opposed? All right, thank you, good night.
44 minutes, I think we're close.
Rack or, no, not really.
That's not,